Hi, my name is Supe. Thanks for coming and checking me out. If you're visiting the channel for the first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy what I have in store for you. And if you're visiting this channel as a repeat, thanks for coming back. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that fun stuff that you're supposed to stay at the beginning and end of a YouTube video. So, ding and red button, the whole 9 yards or whatever. Um, it's been a little bit of an adventure. I've been enjoying myself a lot. I've been feeling a lot better, even though we're still inside the winter months. It's still cold out there. We just had some snow, and I find myself not being able to go out and be outside as much as I want to. But maybe I'm getting Stockholm syndrome for this isolation. Maybe I'm finding myself more and more okay with the way things are at the moment. It's a weird kind of feeling when you finally find yourself being happy in an unchanged situation. Makes me feel kind of like there's something that went awry in my processing. But I really understand deep down that it has way less to do with that and way more to do with the way the human mind works and the way that things get processed throughout our brains, how we deal with things like depression and isolation. And I've been watching a lot of documentaries. I've obviously had a lot of time to watch a lot of new stuff and saw some things about prisons in South America and Africa that really made me understand a lot more about where we are. Because to a certain degree, and in a very small fraction of similarity, it's like a self imposed prison to a certain degree where we are. We aren't really allowed to go out and do things the way that we would. And even if I were to take those things with the freedom of the American that a lot of people are, not everybody else is. And so there isn't as much available out there to do at all. There's a lot of things missing from the social lexicon, if you will. Just a few days ago, we finally got some restrictions lifted, and bars are allowed to be open again until later hours. And there are more indoor seating options for restaurants and stuff. So I find myself really in a place of mentally exploring the options, but understanding we're getting closer and closer to the ease back into some sort of normalcy. I always wonder what that normalcy is going to look like. It is a curious thing, and I'm not really sure that I appreciated or enjoyed the normalcy when it was around. And not necessarily because of any faults of myself, but because of the faults of the way the normalcy had made itself. The things that society had gauged as important weren't necessarily that important to me directly, which is an interesting way to feel. You know, there's a really interesting creature out there. It's called the horseshoe crab. And we use it a lot for scientific things and different types of researches. And it's used in all sorts of different medical processes that we use in the modern age. And a curious thing about it is that for some reason that we don't really understand, horseshoe crabs are only found on the eastern north seaboards of the large continents, North America and Asia. It's kind of interesting to think about because, geographically speaking, the western coast wouldn't be that different either. Why don't we find them on the coasts of Europe or the western coasts of North America. It's kind of curious and mysterious, and we don't really understand why at all. But these horseshoe crabs have become incredibly important in the things that we do in medical research and medical processes that we use regularly in modern day. But there is a synthetic version of it available. A synthetic version of the blood of the horseshoe crab, which naturally is this weird milky blue. It looks like some sort of odd mixture from a Nickelodeon show in 1995 or something. I'm not really sure what else to call it. It definitely looks like it's out of a cartoon of some kind, like something living shouldn't be able to bleed that color. And the horseshoe crab has always been really curious to me. Going out to Cape Cod and being able to see them on the shore is usually just one single horseshoe crab dead or close to it on the shore, and not really understanding what it was. I now realize it's a prehistoric anthropod with basically unchanged DNA for millions of years, and the way that it works with things like bacterial infections and such has become really curious, at least to me. The way that we react to the things that are in our environments is really important. The horseshoe crab's blood turns to gel when it encounters pathogens or infections. I guess human mental states are kind of the same way. The mental state of a human when encountering things that are going to dig too deep, that are going to spread themselves into places that are uncomfortable, make the thinking processes go in directions that aren't normal at the moment. The mind kind of turns to gel, stops moving and operating in any sort of efficient manner. But after a while, understanding that those pathogens of bad thinking, terrible way to put it, but I'm at a loss for words. The pathogens are just going to loosen up eventually. The roots in the brain are going to find different ways. There's going to be a way to work with that. I see memes a lot, after a certain amount of time, it's like, I'm not sad today. I'm just tired of feeling sad. And understanding the difference between those things is really important in understanding how mental capacity works, how it changes over time, how the things that we deal with on a regular basis become part of our regular basis. So, I find myself in different ways, feeling about it in changing and more evolving pieces of mind. It's okay to feel this way. It's okay to act that way. But only because I've become used to it over time. Not because anything else has changed other than the way that I'm thinking about it. Which is interesting unto itself. The way that you think about things changes the way you think about things. I've talked about thinking on thinking before, and it's quite interesting. Just quantifying all of the things that we do. Quantifying the way that other humans think to kind of rationalize to ourselves about the things that we do and the things that they do. And understanding that different people react to the same things differently, and there's so much that has to do with the experience. An anthropod that's barely changed for millions of years has a significantly different reaction to pathogens in its blood than we do. But the way that it reacts to pathogens helps us in fighting our pathogens. Recently, there's been a lot of shakeup, a lot of things going on and changing. It's the beginning of 2021, and there's a bright, bright future out there. But in between that bright spot at the end of it, it seems like it is starting to get darker and darker, which is okay in the run of things. But living through it's going to be really tough, as the new age of different types of wars start to rise up, as the weapons of the past become more and more obsolete, and we find new ways to attack the establishments that we don't like, that don't work for us anymore, those pathogens that are still floating around. We're starting to loosen up our coagulated bloods, the scabs stuck in our veins and arteries, and move past them. Those things that are going to free us, allow our heart to beat more freely, open up our eyes more wide, to see that light at the end of the dark tunnel and understand that it's there lighting the way for us, even if just by shadows and reflections only. The things out there are ours for the taking, no matter who claims them now. There are things that will change. Life as we know it is constantly evolving. We are not an unchanged million-year-old anthropod that only resides on the eastern coast of the large continents. We don't thrive in cold water, but we can't survive in boiling water either. Finding a way to even out the waves, understand that the water that we need for sustenance does not contain salt, are the things that we really need to embrace. As we change and pull ourselves forward in the evolving nature that we're working towards, understanding the world around us is going to be so much more important than we ever think it could be. I just hope you're down for the ride. 'Cause I am. My name is Supe. Thanks for hanging out.
Sky over the Atlantic.